Hello, everybody. We are live with Transit Talk. Hopefully, everybody can see us. And today we are talking about the sun in gate 27 and the earth in gate 28. So, good morning or good afternoon. Good noon. What do I say? Good afternoon? It's not afternoon. We're late. It's technically afternoon. Good afternoon, Jess.
Good afternoon and good morning to everybody who's behind us, right?
Right. Or good evening, even. Who knows what people are listening.
Everybody who's ahead. Yeah. Hello.
Right? Hello.
Yeah.
So Jen is the sun in gate 27.
You called me Chad again.
I did it again. Oh my God. Why am I doing that? Because I love you so much. So your names are just so similar, Jess and Jen, and I'm struggling today, right? I told us before we got on, I said, I almost said that the struggle today for me was to when we're thinking about what's the struggle that's worth fighting for, because I'm representing gate 28, is I was going to say the struggle to figure out how to represent gate 28 today was just not a struggle I felt was worth fighting for. And then I realized it was Earth Day. And I'm like, that's a struggle I really believe in, right? That is something, save the Earth. So the Earth is in gate 28. So today let's maybe think about the little struggles that bring meaning to our existence and the beautiful ways we connect with the earth. So I don't know. That felt like my little thing. So I've got my see, now you can't see my I have to do it so it doesn't go to the backdrop. Got my little daisies here and save the earth. And Jess is representing.
Yes, I am gate 27. So nourishment and caring. And I brought my big old teddy bear with me today. So I have a fun story with this guy. He has come all the way from South Africa with me. So I was probably about 8 years old, and my mom found this teddy bear in South Africa when we were living there. And she's like, okay, I have this surprise for you, but I can't give it to you till your birthday. So we kept it hidden in the closet until it was my birthday, and we used to go and play with it. And all the love and the caring and the nourishment that came with this, it was just, and it was so much fun, right? So the teddies.
So you knew he was in the closet?
So I knew he was in the closet. My mom told me she was so excited, but I couldn't have him till my birthday. But I got to be in on the fun and love him and bring him out and play with him. And then in the evening, we put him away and we pretend like nobody knew about him. So there's just like really, really fond memories and just like joy associated with this teddy bear. And funny enough, now Lily and Savannah play with this teddy bear and it's in their room. So just lots of love and lots of and coming from this teddy bear and so many snuggles. It's like the perfect like snuggle sized teddy bear that it can just like love you.
He looks very snuggable. I have a white like teddy bear that stays with our Christmas decorations that comes out just at Christmas because he was given to us at Christmas time by Wally's grandmother, who said this is for when it was interesting because she was like this. She knew we were wanting to have kids or whatever, but it was just like a Christmas bear, and she gave it to us. And she passed before we had Sonia. So it's always been a thing that when she was little, we would bring him out at Christmas time and take a picture of her as a baby next to this bear to see how much she's grown, and we'd always like remember Grandma Hetty. But yeah, so he lives in a closet too. Actually, now he lives in a bin in the basement.
With all the Christmas stuff. That's a good place to be.
Right? Exactly. So I hope your bear doesn't live in the closet anymore, though, does he?
Oh, no. This teddy bear, they love to make forts. So this teddy bear is either like in a fort or in a bed somewhere.
It reminds me of what's that Teddy that talks, Teddy McRufferson or something. I don't know. He kind of looks like that bear. But anyway, so welcome to Transit Talk. Hi, Lisa. Glad you could join us. Hope you're feeling better. I know you had a root canal last time or something, right? So, you want to jump in and start talking about gate 27, Jess?
So yeah, so the sun is in gate 27 right now. And so 27 is on the sacral center and it is pointed towards the spleen. So that is the 2750. So in my chart, I have the 27 defined in my conscious Mars, and I also have the 50. And if you remember, we talked about the 50 recently, and that's the cauldron and that's values. And so that makes the whole the channel of preservation, also the design of a custodianship. And it's very interesting how this one shows up for me in my life. Remind me to tell you about Ibiza with this one. So
Okay.
yeah, gate 27, nourishment, gate of caring. So with this energy coming from the sacral center, remembering this is a motor center, so always with these energies leaning into, it's very important to lean into your authority. Is this the right place? Is this the right thing? And with the gate 27, it's a lot about compassion. There's this compassion for others, this feeling for caring for others, that you want to take care and nurture and build others. Again, leaning into that piece of like, is this the right thing? Where you're not just emptying your cup because you're so busy trying to fill others. And then really asking yourself right now, where am I? Like, what are my needs? Where am I right now? Am I in a place of survival? Because if you're in a place of survival, having so much compassion and love for yourself because you cannot fill other people's cups, you can try, right? To put that care into others. But when you're in that place where you need to have your needs met, there's that balancing piece, right? So it's looking after yourself and making sure, am I taking care of, am I nourishing myself? And this isn't just the physical needs, this is also your spiritual needs, right? That purpose that we see in the gate 28, right? That's the programming partner, really leaning into that piece of, in this base frequency, we look at the selfishness, but it is so essential to be selfish because you need to fill yourself up in a loving way, right? Both physically and spiritually. So looking at that and also looking at boundaries. So if you have 27 in your chart and you don't have the 50, maybe looking at, do I struggle with boundaries? I have the whole channel, and sometimes the boundary shows up for me as well, because that 50 is that values piece to it. So looking at setting healthy boundaries for yourself. The 27 is sometimes called the gate of the Mother Teresa, right? This is that giving energy where you can get into this level of like altruism, where you're just giving from a place that's not necessarily like, oh, I'm going to do this so I can be recognized, or oh, I'm going to do this because. It's just that selflessness where you get to love people just for the sake of loving them. And I deeply, deeply, having this in my chart, I truly feel this. When I lived in Blacksburg, I used to, when I would drive around, if I saw people on the side of the road, just like walking or like hitchhiking, I'd make it a point to go and buy them some food and give it to them, but not because anybody would know or not that they would tell anyone, but just for the sheer joy it brought me to see that joy on that person's face. And it fills me up in a way that feels amazing, right? So coming from this place where it's like you get to give. It doesn't necessarily have to be something big. And sometimes we can go, oh, well, I don't necessarily have like the funds to put in. I don't necessarily have all these things, so I can't give. But, you can still give something, even that generosity, even a smile, right? Like if you see someone, giving them that joy of the smile, that acknowledgement, like a piece of your time. So it's not necessarily resource based for this. But definitely looking again with those boundaries of, because you are putting a lot of your energy into it. And so I was telling you about Ibiza. When I was in Ibiza, it was so funny. I have like a kind of hurting energy about me. And we went to on this field trip, which was so much fun. And everybody has their own beautiful, unique energies, and some people are a little bit more individual. And so they would go off and like walking in the woods or walking down the ruins. And my energy was very like, where's everybody? I want to account for, you're here, you're here, you're here. I was like, where's this person? Hold on, let's find them. And it was so funny to see that actually playing out in real life, that custodianship where it's looking after and making sure like everybody's there and taken care of.
Yeah. I can totally see that energy as a big core part of you. And it's interesting coming out of the Austin experience we had with Chetan Harkin and the karma clearing, and how he talked about the conscious Mars as a place where we find life becoming playful again, right? And so that is part of your nurturing nature, is how life becomes playful again for you. Although I can't imagine life not being ever having not been playful for you. But that gate 27, though, that, like you said, last week it was 50 was our sun. So the sun just shifted over to the other side of the same channel, right? So it's highlighting a similar channel, but the other end of the energy, right? So last week it was the holding space, right? And the being the container for that nurturing. And this week it is this nourishing, really giving selfless energy. And so I had not heard it referred to as the Mother Teresa gate, at least I don't recall that, but I do know that in Gene Keys, it's the shadow of selfishness, and the gift of altruism, and then the city of selflessness, which feels very much like that whole Mother Teresa energy you're talking about. And I would say that it's even more, and not to negate the good feeling we get from doing something, but I think true altruism is when we do something even when it doesn't feel good to us to do it, right? When we do it from a sheer place of, I'm going to do this for the person. Like, I think about so many people who really care about, and this isn't meant as judgment, okay? So I want to preface it as that. But, you think about how much you might say, oh, I love animals. I want to do whatever I can to help animals. But then the opportunity that comes up to help animals is really uncomfortable. So then you don't do it, right? Like, maybe there's animals that are dying alone, but you can't do that. You're not built for that. That's hard. So sometimes the true altruism is when you can do the things that are really hard, right? And sit in that energy. So, and that's where it is important that we be grounded in this gate 28. So moving to the gate 28, if they're okay for me to move on to that. Right. Okay. So the gate 28 is on the spleen, right? And so the spleen is an awareness center, and it points down to the root, and there's a lot of fear in this. There's the fear of death. And it's interesting because, okay, I didn't know I was going to say this, but last night I found out that my best friend from high school died. And we have not been close at all. I mean, we actually stopped being Facebook friends for a while because we were very different people. And, so people grow apart, but we still had all these memories. And I found out in February, she messaged me and told me that she had been given basically 18 months with cancer. And I personally struggled in that moment of like, okay, I can be here if she needs me to be, but I'm not going to impose myself in a way that is putting some sort of expectations. We don't see the world the same at all, right? And so I had offered her, that I would be there if she needed something or whatever. And then she said something like, maybe not ready right now. I need time to deal with this. And so next thing I know, I found out last night, right before I was going to go to bed, that she had passed yesterday morning. And I realized that brought up a whole bunch of things about death, right? And this fear of relationships and, how many times do we have a relationship that is difficult and then something happens and then you feel like, oh, why didn't I do something why didn't I fix this while they were still alive, right? And it was interesting because I didn't feel that way. I didn't feel like, I didn't feel like there was no animosity between us. We had left things very fine, it just, there was not a closeness. So, but it had me thinking about the struggles that we have to do what we think we should do, the struggles of how we all approach death, what it's like to be with someone who is struggling with their health and has a very different mindset than you do. Um, just that whole thing. I had just finished my blog when I, got this news from her, like I'd done it maybe a couple hours before. And when I wrote the blog about this, I was really focusing on the times that we have a hard time with other people's struggles, right? And we don't know how to sit with them in their own struggles without trying to fix it. And if they won't let us fix it, or they won't do the thing we think will fix it, then we get frustrated and we, back off. I don't know that. And so, that's where I was kind of at. And I realized that, that's what happens in so many relationships is we stop being able to just be with people where they're at, right? And let people have their own journey, even if their own journey takes them down all the wrong paths. And the judgment that we have, right? For the way that people experience their journeys. But everybody's got their own struggles, right? We know some of them. If we're really fortunate, people share what their really deep struggles are. And then, but a lot of times they don't. And so even when we know people's struggles, like let's look at Earth Day. Like, look at how controversial that is for some people of like what we should do or if we should do anything to save the planet. Like that feels to me like, in my heart, it should be really obvious, like, yay, save the Earth. Yes, we want to do what's right for the planet, right? But those ideas are all so different for so many people, and it can cause so much struggle, right? And so much divisiveness. And I think this energy of caring really is best served when we can ground in the idea of not just us knowing what's worth struggling for, but really knowing that we only know what's worth it for us. We only know where our struggle is worth it. And for us to really express caring in any way, we can't tell somebody else what's worth the struggle, right? When we refuse to be compassionate to someone because, let's say, for example, they're a drug addict, okay? And I'm not saying anybody that I'm talking about was a drug addict. But let's just say there's somebody and you're like, I'm not going to, their problems are their own fault because they chose to do drugs. Well, I don't know their struggles. I don't know what horrible things made them think that drugs was the only way they could survive. And I don't need to enable that. I don't need to do anything, but I can still have a loving heart to that person. Now, that doesn't mean I have to give them money that they're going to go spend it, that doesn't whatever. Just like I can love the earth and not have to go ballistic on somebody who uses straws, right? But I can also not want to use straws. Even if it's the dumbest, simplest little thing, it's still something that I don't need, so all these little things. So anyway, I think that this is a really beautiful energy to sit with how we feel about things. And it's funny because I was thinking, wow, not only do I have this, but I also have a memorial service I'm going to on Saturday for somebody who passed away several weeks ago. That was my daughter's age. So that's another really tricky thing to sit with, right? How do you show compassion to somebody's family who's lost their child that doesn't try to fix it? It doesn't try to make them feel better, right? And, it's kind of when we're not meant to feel better because something really hurts, sucks. When we try to give that compassion, that's really selfish. It's about us not wanting to be with their discomfort, right? So we try to say the thing we think is going to give them comfort, but in a lot of cases, it just pisses them off, right? So,
Oh, that was first off, thank you for sharing that so vulnerably because that was just really, really beautiful and heartfelt. And you know, it's those stories that really help people deeply connect in with us. And sending you, I'm hugging my teddy and I'm hugging you right now, and I'm sending you
Oh,
so
thank
much
you.
love and their family love. And, you know, just I wrote this down. That was so beautiful. And I think this is the key to it, is being with people where they're at
Yeah.
and just really honoring them. And I felt that so deeply with so many people in my life recently. Just going, I see you where you're at right now, and I'm going to bring compassion to exactly where you are without trying to fix, right? Without trying to do. And it's just really interesting, because the other side, you know, with the thing with death is, so for anyone who doesn't know, when we were in Austin, my daughter cut her hand on, we have a life-size knight, that's a metal knight, and it cut it very, very deeply. And so she had to go to the ER and get stitches. And her and I are incredibly close. I'm very, very, very close with my kids. And she had a lot of love and support there with her. But not having me there was hard for her and was very, very hard for me. Um, my amazing best friend, you've met Phaedra. She's phenomenal. She went with Lily. She sat with her in the ER, like held her little heart, did the breathing with her while she was getting her stitches, just so full of love and support there. But the most beautiful thing, you know, Kathy, we got back and Kathy's like, how's Lily? How's her hand? And I shared with her, you know, she's got a lot of emotions that are trapped, a lot of stuff. And Kathy, in all your beautiful amazingness, was like, hey, do you want to do some tapping? And in that moment, it just was like such a beautiful feeling of like being held and loved and like just like, I've got you. And she sat and she did this beautiful, beautiful tapping with Lily, because Lily and I tap and we do breath work. But what Kathy was able to unlock in her and bring this piece of safety, you know, she asked her, what were you feeling at the time that this happened? And Lily actually said death. There was this feeling because there was a lot of blood when she cut her finger. And yes, it's your finger, but you know, to an 8-year-old, that there was so much blood, she thought in that moment she was going to die because there was blood everywhere. And the way in which Kathy spoke to her and the verbiage she used was so beautiful, and it was so compassionate in telling her, I love myself. What was it exactly you said? I love myself where I am, or
No, well, so you tap on the negative feeling, even though I was afraid I might die. And you tap on that, and then you say, I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
yes. And that was it. And that sentence helped her unlock and get back to that feeling of what she was actually feeling, that she felt so loved and so cared for in that moment that she could open that back up and move through that. So if you just want to say that one more time for people, because that sentence was just so beautiful.
I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And that's something that's I learned in quantum alignment system, which is a form of EFT tapping that works with some of the components of human design. And Dr. Karen Curry Parker teaches that. Lisa, have you done quantum alignment system with Karen, or was it just the quantum human design that I remember you being in with me?
I've done the 3-month um
The personal
Yes.
journey that she did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Because she occasionally does these things where you can go through them together. I don't know if she's doing that anymore. It's got to be a lot. But yeah, that's something I love doing with clients, is helping them work through, because our energy, you know, emotions, right, is energy in motion, right? That's what emotions are, really. It's like there's and it's meant to move through our body. And so when fear, sadness, grief, any of those things get stuck in the body, it can cause long-term disruptions throughout the body. So we tap on different places and we move that energy to kind of shift it so that you can, you know, acknowledge it. And I think that's one of the things that's really beautiful with this karma clearing, though. Jess and I are working on a course to offer an online version of something similar to what we did with Chetan Parkin. And I think that that's one of the really beautiful things, is that it allows you to acknowledge the low frequencies of whatever these energies are that we're talking about. Acknowledge the low frequency in a way that doesn't resist it, because what we resist persists, right? So we honor it. And that's one of the beautiful things that I've found in the way that Chetan teaches human design. He uses a lot of the same ideas that Richard Rudd uses in the Gene Keys too, right? Where he has this idea that each low frequency of a gate has the two vibrations, the introverted and the extroverted expression. And I think that that's really beautiful. So like, for example, the sun is in gate 27 right now, and the shadow is selfishness. And the two extremes of that is self-sacrificing and self-centered. And that's both of those energies are about me, right? I'm doing this, I'm self-sacrificing, I am self-centered, meaning I'm taking, but that is where we have to be. We have to feel solid in that. We have to move beyond the fear that's in that. We have to start in that to be able to move to the gift of altruism, which the altruism is truly like, well, the city is the selflessness, but it's the step towards really making it be about the other in a way that does not compromise who you are as a person, right? And doesn't make it about you. So I thank you for the recognition that I'm really happy that that was helpful for Lily. And I also hope it was helpful for you, because honestly, as moms, so many times we hold our fears inside, and our kids pick up on that, you know?
Yes, and that's something I'm very mindful with Lily. So she has an open spleen and mine's defined. And so I find a lot of times she comes to me to process fears. And so I found myself where I hold that energy back to come forward in a way that's strong.
Yeah.
To be able to hold that space for her. So this morning I cleared everything this morning and I went to the beach and I had a good cry. I sat there with the beach and I
Wow.
sat there with my journal and I was like, okay, let's now move all the things that need to come through. And, that really comes back to the energy of right now, where you think about it's a hard transition for anybody who has children, because when they're really little, like when they're babies, right? You are fully responsible for them, for what they're eating, what they're doing. And there's this nurturing and this care in this way. But as they start to grow up and they start to become their own people, starting to take a step back and finding that balance where you so deeply as a parent don't want anything bad to happen to them, but you start to realize it's more about, I get to be here to support them through this thing. At least for me, it was a big transition to go, like, I am not necessarily supposed to stop everything from happening. It's that I get to guide her through it and help her move through it, right? And identifying and loving the parts in me that had all these stories and had all of these feelings of like, why weren't you there? All these thoughts that come up, which are very natural to feel those, right? And love that part of me and start working on those patterns and shifting them and seeing how that showed up for her. So finding that balance of, where do I get to care and love you, right? And nurture you, but also really empower you to come to a place where you go, I can do this. That it's not necessarily that she has to be so dependent on me, but knowing that I am there to support her and love her. And that's part of the energy as well with the 27-28, where the 27 in its highest form, Richard Rudd actually talks about that. That's Jesus energy, where you're at a place where there's healing. This state's really about the healing energy. And when you get to that place where you can heal, you can actually like heal a blind man, where you're connecting into this piece where it's not just me, it's not just you, that we are connected, where the awareness in that lower part is very like, it's me, it feels disconnected. But that as we progress through this, it's not, you start to recognize what I'm doing affects others. It affects the world, it affects the planet, which comes back and affects me, and how interconnected, which is so perfect for Earth Day, how it is so connected. And then you get to this place where you're going, okay, I'm in this altruism, but then going even further, where there is that selflessness, where the selflessness is that it's all at the same time simultaneously, and recognizing, how connected we are, and that it's coming back to that piece of one, that piece of love. And that's the place where you're kind of entering those different dimensions where there is that possibility for that deep, deep, deep healing.
Yeah. Being a mom's hard.
Yeah.
And that's, and it's funny because I don't know about you, but when my daughter was really little, I had this attitude of like, well, I'll just wait till she's a little older and things will be easier. Like, I didn't go do a lot of things when she was a baby because I was like, oh, she's a baby and she's crying a lot and I need to carry her a lot. And so I'll wait until she's a little older. And then it was like, oh my God, now she's running everywhere. Now she's getting into everything. And then you're like, oh, and then when she gets older and she can talk and you could reason with her, right? Okay, first of all, I didn't know I was raising a damn manifestor either. So
Whole different ball game.
right? But now she's 24. And, I had an experience yesterday that kind of prompted a lot of what I started the blog with. And it was a minor experience, but it was like, she's trying to save money. And we were at the store and she's been really good and hasn't really bought herself anything. And she bought some things for herself. And they were all things that made sense for her to buy. None of them were expensive. And we get to the checkout and she has that moment where she sees how much she spent. And she gets mad at herself, right? And she's like, why am I doing this? I'm trying to save money so I can move back out. I can get a car, all these things she's trying to do. And it was, I did say something like, well, you don't have to get it all. And she's like, he's already taken the sensors off of it. She didn't want to be a bother, right? And I was like, that's fine. You don't, you still don't, whatever. And so that whole thing. But then I was just like, just stop, just let her process all this, right? And so, like, on the way home, she's like yelling at herself about how stupid it is. Why didn't you stop me? And I was like, because this is yours to decide, And so then it was this whole thing of once she got home, she realized that, okay, no, she did want to keep the things that she had bought, but she was upset at herself because she wants a better job where she makes better money. And I realized that it's these sort of moments, right, that are going to make her see, okay, maybe the struggle is worth it for me to go and find a better job because I don't like how I feel like I constantly have to choose and if I step in, which I was so tempted to be like, you know what, honey, I'll pay for those things because they weren't extravagant, whatever. But I've been trying to, like, she's an adult, she's 24. And it's so tempting to be like, I see how you feel. I want you to be able to have these things. But that whole idea of allowing her to go through the struggles that she needs to go through. And then for me, one thing that's really helped a lot is to realize I have gate 38. My husband has gate 28. So gate 38 connects with gate 28. And we have an electromagnetic. Well, our daughter has the whole channel. So we're both compromised by her in that situation. So these are her struggles to deal with and inform us when she needs help or wants support. Because honestly, I've learned that the more I try to help, the more it can make her feel that she's incapable of getting through her own struggles. Right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Oh,
Lisa, did you say you have these energies in your chart? Do you have anything you'd like to share?
I have 27.5. And I was reading up on the energy today, and I am really good at knowing people's potential and being able to give them or say something to them in the moment that reminds them of who they really are. And I just thought, well, everybody can do that. And then I see other people trying to do it, and I realize not everybody can do that. And that is definitely one of my superpowers. I don't have 28, but I have 38. And I've been looking at genetic matrix because I'm also really interested in the number of channels that I have defined during the transits. And last week I had 5 channels or six channels defined
Wow.
with all of the different transits. And this week I have 4. And so it's really interesting. I'm only just getting to grips with the energy, but with the having that access, because I have a totally open spleen.
Mm.
So having that access to a particular fear center at certain times of the year makes it a lot less stressful for me. And Jess, you were saying about how your daughter has an open spleen and about how she comes to you to process some fears. I wish when I was growing up, I had that, because my mother was so anxious that it made me very anxious. And so I always thought that every fear that I caught, it was like a net for me, rather than, as Karen Curry Parker says, the screen and just letting it go through. For me, it was like a net. I just caught all of these and
Mm.
just assumed that because I was having the feelings in my body that they were mine to deal with. And that's where discernment comes in. It's like knowing what is yours to deal with and what is yours to just go, you're not mine, carry on, carry on to
Yeah.
something else or someone else, or, wherever your journey takes you. It is not with me.
Mhm.
And so that is interesting, having that energy. And I noticed, like, on the call today's call is really gentle
Mm.
and really kind. Kathy, I love your earrings.
Thank you. I bought them in Austin.
They're beautiful.
Jess was with me.
And Jess, your teddy bear. And I'm looking at, well, I don't have teddy bears now, but what I do have, and I have had for a while, I have a Pink Panther plush toy that I have had since I was maybe 12, something like that. So for most of my life. And he sits there on top of a Tigger. And the Tigger that I have, I bought the Tigger from me, but the Tigger actually sits in pajamas that my youngest son had. And they were, I think they're 12 months to 18 months. And they are Tigger pajamas. Right. It is so cute and so adorable. And Pink Panther just sits, on top of Tigger. And I just find it really adorable. And somewhere around here, I have it's like a tiny little Snoopy. It's almost like, it's not like a beanie, but he's like a beanbag, right? And I've had him like for longer than I care to remember. And that reminder to look after ourselves, and also that the energy is, yes, it's about nurturing ourselves, and it's also about doing what we can for the tribe and the collective when we can, because we can't always do for others. And if there's a choice of the tribe and the collective and me, I'm always going to win out, because if I have to make a choice, it does nobody any good if I am in a depleted state. So having that compassion, and especially self-compassion. And Kathy, you were saying also about the earth, and it's funny because I actually think there's only one thing that counts, is that we should all save the earth. The only reason that everybody is not pulling towards saving the earth is because there are corporations involved and there is money involved, and we are told different things by different people, which divides us, right? We literally have one earth. to live on. I don't care what other planets we explore.
Right.
This is the place that we have. And all of us, the collective I'm trying to keep it clean, mess up this planet every single day.
It's a safe place. You can let it,
Say it.
whatever.
Fuck up this planet
Right.
every single day.
Mhm.
And there is a lot of good that is also happening.
Yes.
And so we're in a balancing thing. And it's not completely balanced, because you can go some places in the world and you realize that corporations have basically raped the planet and left that particular area for dead and are moving on and moving on and moving on. And in some ways, I'm really glad that the planet is 7/8 water, because I think that if we were any more Earth, terra firma, we might not actually survive as a planet. And because the seas and the oceans have such a depth to them, not many people go down to explore down there. We may be grabbing up all the fish, right? But not a lot of people go down there to explore. And I feel like the seas and the oceans are our secret weapons right now. They are doing things that we can't do right now, because nobody's exploring. Not nobody, but not a lot of people are exploring under there. Otherwise, that part of everything would be completely messed up as much as the Earth is. But there are so many more people now who realize that this is one planet that we live on. And I love when I go to cities and I see that green spaces are made, that there is more care for people and basically for our nervous systems, because green spaces are perfect for being able to control our nervous systems. I'm from New York, and New York is a total head case when it comes to being able to manage your nervous system and to be able to relax. But there's so many more spaces that are being created to help us regulate. And so it feels really, really good. So those are my thoughts for today. Lots of thoughts in there.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all of that. So, so beautiful. And I would absolutely love it if you would share a picture of those pajamas on the Tigger. That sounds amazing. And, if anybody else wants to put in a picture of what is your sneaky bear, what is your little thing? If you have something, if it's, something that makes you feel nourished and cared for, if it's a pair of pajamas, if it's a stuffed animal, is it a pillow? Is it what is that thing for you? I think that would be really beautiful. And if people wanted to share, that would be really amazing. And then the question that comes up for me is, because I'm also 27.5, and with the line 5, that comes with the projection too. So sometimes there's that piece of energy where it's like, oh, I can see that you can care for and nourish me in this way, and people can connect in with that energy. But there's that piece where, what's it called? Line 5 is called the executor, where it's almost like, okay, I'm a dentist. I can, you can come here and I can help you with your teeth, but you need to go and see a podiatrist. Here's the podiatrist number. And I definitely see earlier in my life where I tried to do it all. I tried to be the dentist and the podiatrist and the optometrist and the hairdresser, right? I tried to be let me help with all the different things. And there is that projection where people come to you and go, oh, but you can do all these things. And having that piece of boundary where you get to say with your resources, yes, I can do this, but if you need someone, this is your person. Have you felt that with your line 5?
I also used to try and do it all for everybody. And it was more learning about my 2343,
Mm.
I don't necessarily open my mouth and offer
Lisa,
things.
can you tell people what who don't know what the 2343 is? Just
Freak to geek, freak
genius to freak. It's the channel that connects the ajna to the
Yes,
throat.
yes,
Genius
freak
to
to
freak,
genius.
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's the
here.
channel that connects.
Individual energy.
Yes, yeah. I'm all about the individual energy. All my channels,
Yeah.
individual channels. My journey is so uniquely individual, and that's where. So, Jess, you were saying about being everything to everyone. Once I realized that my journey was individual, I dropped so much stuff and was like, I have the resources because I'm a 1-3. And if you want them, then I can point you in the right direction. But I'm not just volunteering my resource. That's what I used to do. I used to give everybody this, that, or the other, whether they asked for it or not. And now you specifically, if I mention something, you have to ask for it in the same way that if you mention something to me and I'm interested in it, then I would ask you for a link to that. That has made my life so much easier. It has taken a mental load off of me. I no longer try and solve people's issues that have nothing to do with me, something that they mention in passing, and we'll get off the phone. And all of a sudden, I'm then doing the line one resource.
It's
And
an open head thing too.
Yep. And trying to figure it all out. And I'm like, no, this is not for me. If you wanted my help, then you would have asked for my help. And I'm good with that now.
And Husband, are you good at discerning whether or not you have the resource to do it?
Yes. Whether I have the time, the information, the energy, or the money, right?
Yeah.
Those are how I look at my resources. And sometimes I can say, here's a link, go off and research yourself. Sometimes I will have the exact answer. I'm happy. If people ask, I am happy to give you the answer. I don't feel like people should be looking for things unnecessarily. Yeah. If it's just a specific issue that you have, here's the answer for it. And if you want to dig deeper, then you can dig deeper. The thing about me is that I'm always going to dig deeper. Like when my friend first told me about human design, she's like, I'm going to tell you about something and you're welcome. And I started looking, I was like, and it's been like 3.25 years of deep research into things. And the more I learn about myself, the more I can let go of other people's journeys.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really think that that's one of the biggest, there are certain points where I feel like things really clicked and a big shift made. And one of the things for me was, a couple years ago when I really got into this radical self-trust. Okay, I'm really going to stop worrying about what other people think and want, and I'm going to just trust myself, right? Trust my process, do the thing. But then as I got really into that, there was this other shift that came, which was like, oh, if I'm going to do that for me, I have to be okay with them doing that for them. And the letting go of knowing what's best for them any more than I want them to know what's best for me, right? We're all uniquely different. And sometimes you can see that someone's in a place where they're making decisions out of fear. But telling them what to do isn't going to make them less afraid. Telling them that you're there while they figure it out is going to empower them. Telling them that, you're a soft place for them to land. And while you were talking, Lisa, I kept thinking of there's a book that so many people love, but it's really interpreted in different ways. And it's actually a children's book that has always kind of infuriated me. And it's what is it? Shel Silverstein, the Giving Tree. Do you know the book?
I don't know the book.
It's, I mean, I think it was written back in the 50s maybe or something, but he did a bunch of really great like illustrated books. And this one is about a little boy and has this tree that he goes to, and it's a big, beautiful shade tree. And he has all these things, and the tree gives its fruit. I forget if it's apples or whatever. And the tree loves the boy, and the boy loves the tree, and the boy grows up and comes when he has problems. And the tree keeps trying to help make the boy happy. So she gives him, her limbs so he can go build something. I forget what. And then finally, he's like needs whatever. Is that when he builds a house? I thought that was the trunk. Finally, he's like, cuts down the tree and like uses all of her up. And then finally he comes back and there's nothing left of her. And she's like, here, sit on my stump. Right. And so many people see it as this beautiful example of love. And I'm like, no, it is an example of someone looking to someone else to fix things for them. Someone taking responsibility for someone else's struggles in a way that depletes them completely. And so many parents, mothers especially, devote themselves so much to their kids. And I love my kid. And I think it's important to be there for your kid. But if you are losing yourself in the process and you no longer know who you are outside of the role as a mother, and now your kids grow up and they're going to a school that you've picked out for them basically and doing the degree that will make you happy, and now they're dating someone and you're telling them whether or not you think they're good for them, and maybe this isn't the right person for you, and all these things, and then we get so, and honestly, it's hard for me to even be around a lot of parents that have adult kids, because all they talk about is their kids. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. I get we want to see how our kids are doing because we've known each other's kids, but now can we talk about us, right?
Yeah. My kids are 30 and 27. And it was when they were in their teens that because I had a childhood through my own lens, I feel was neglectful.
Mm.
And so I went to the other extreme with my children. I wasn't a helicopter parent, but I was always there for them. And when my eldest was decided on a university to go to, he got better grades than he thought he was going to get. We had already visited the university that he wanted to go to, and he said, that's the place. And he got his offer. And I said, well, your grades actually mean that you can go to a tier above university. And he said, no, Mom, this is the university that I want to go to. It fulfills all my needs. And I had to sit back and say, his life is not my life and is not for me to choose for him where he goes. And I think that was one of the first times that I was just like, step back and let him make his decision. I think there's only like there was one time I did step in, and that was because I'm in the UK and they do these things called A levels, which are advanced levels, and you do about 4 of them. And his English teacher begged him to take English literature as an A level. He said, oh, Mom, I don't want to do that. I'm going to have to read all these books that I don't want to read. And I actually sat him down and said, but you know what? When you go to university, it is nothing but reading shit that you don't want to read. And
which is why my manifestor daughter quit. Don't tell me to do something I don't want to do.
Yep. And he was like, and I said to him, if you do this for 2 years, you have trained yourself. You are in the habit. And then you can pick up anything that they tell you to do and just do it because you're in that habit of reading. And especially fiction books, because he doesn't like fiction. He's always been a
Yeah.
non-fiction person. So it's that discernment. It's learning when.
Right. Does
to
he have the
separate-
28?
I think he does. I think it.
So I want to cut you off, but we're getting to the top of the hour.
Oh,
And I
no,
want to
keep
really
talking,
run
and
through
I
the
will
lines.
just have a look.
Yeah, I want to just quick run through the lines unless you have something else you want to do, Jess.
I just want to add real quick. Leslie said QAS is an amazing tool. I've been bringing tapping to the community I support at the Denver Women's Correctional Facility. That's amazing, Leslie. I know basic tapping, and what Kathy did was phenomenal. I was like, this is just, and with an 8-year-old too. So I can only imagine like the transformation you're helping facilitate. So I think that's absolutely phenomenal. You're bringing that in. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so gate 28, do you want to go through the lines, or I have it right here if you want me to just run through all of them real quick?
I'm going to do 27 first, and then we
I
can
mean, that's what I meant, 27. Do you want to do the lines?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
So, gate 27, nourishment and caring. Line 1 is selfishness. And again, coming back to this place of maybe looking at like, what does that word mean to you, and connecting in with, if you're at a place of survival, right? This is just the experience you're having right now, that there is that need to be selfish, to find out like, what is the thing I need? What do I need spiritually? What do I need emotionally? What do I need like physically in my life right now to start to step into, so I can start taking these stairs up? So loving yourself, a lot of compassion. It's perfect wherever you are right now, but gaining that awareness.
That feels like the perfect of giving from your saucer, like your cup is full and running over. So the selfishness is keeping the cup full so that you always have the saucer to give from.
Even when people around you are saying something different, right?
Yeah.
But, yeah. Coming back to filling yourself up, right? Line 2 is self-sufficiency. And this is where we're starting to see, again, you're starting to become more self-sufficient. And so that you can start to fill others up. Line 3 is greed. And then line 4, we're going into generosity. Line 5, the executor, which is what Lisa and I have. And then line 6 is wariness.
Yeah. So wariness, if it doesn't seem self-explanatory, is a protection against an abuse of generosity. So, being careful not to be too generous, or right.
Where you're stepping into that higher expression, right? Because you've gone up to the 6th line. So that higher expression where you are in that selflessness, that altruism, but also being guarded against being taken advantage of and just pouring too deeply into something where you're not looking at necessarily what you need.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So now we'll go into gate 28 is the gate of the game player, or the preponderance of the great, right? What are the deeper meaning in life type of stuff. So it's also known as the gate of struggle. And so the first line is preparation. And the second line, I love some of these names. The second line is called shaking hands with the devil. And this is sometimes knowing how to align yourself in a way that might feel a little bit icky, but is moving you towards the right path, if that makes sense. 3 is adventurism. So the third line, experiential, 28th could be sometimes a little bit some of the riskier adventurism type of behavior, a little bit more thrill seeking. 4th line is holding on, the ability through whatever means to keep one's grip, right? So, being really solid in the struggle. 5th line is treachery, and that one can sometimes, the shadow would be the abuse of trust. And, you know, that think of the fifth line, there's always the hair, you know, I just feel like I want to explain when the names sound icky. Like this is one of the things I kind of wish I had pulled out Chaitan's names for the lines, because some of these traditional I Ching lines are, I just ordered the new version of Chaitan's Book of Lines, and it was, was told it, my autographed copy was shipped yesterday. So, okay, so the sixth line is blaze of glory, the sacrifice rather than capitulation to the law of deterioration. So 28 really is asking us in general, how are we finding meaning in life? And, you know, in the end, it's reminding us that we're all just walking each other home, right? There's an impermanence to this existence. Our soul is eternal. But this meat suit is not. And in this lifetime, there are struggles that we came here to experience as part of our journey. And, you know, if we cannot let our fears get in the way of really finding the meaning and purpose in those struggles. It's my favorite, one of my favorite little sayings is everything is happening for my greatest expansion, even when it sucks in the moment, right? I feel like that's really the essence of Gate 28. So how can I sit with this uncomfortableness while I get clarity on how it is actually leading to my greatest expansion, right? So
And that's a huge part of it, right? With the energy of 27 as well. It's like finding that purpose. Like what is the purpose in your life that helps you get out of that place, because potentially you're sitting in that selfish energy because there's a piece of numbing where you're going, there's nothing more to this. So really kind of going to find that higher purpose so that you can come to a place where you can radiate it out into the world, right? And so a starting place to look there in your life saying, why am I unhappy? Looking at your life and going like, where am I unhappy and why am I unhappy? What are the things in my life to start down that pathway to find what that purpose is for you? And that's where the transformation can start to happen.
yeah. And the difference, the other thing I just want to touch on, I posted something about this a day or two ago where I was thinking about, you know, I saw some doctor on a reel somewhere talking about the difference between pleasure and happiness and relating it to pleasure being related to dopamine and happiness being related to serotonin. And dopamine hits require another one, another one, another one. And it's that pleasure seeking that keeps us going after another dopamine hit, whereas serotonin is longer lasting. And sometimes in our seeking pleasure and avoiding sitting in the pain, right? That we sometimes deplete that sense of long-term happiness because we're constantly looking for that short-term pleasure. And, you know, that's how addictions happen. That's, you know, I mean, Gate 28, there's a lot of, you know, there's addiction can be in this place. I mean, it's not the only place, but, you know, that whole thrill seeking, going for the what's going to feel good in the moment instead of what's really a struggle that's worth fighting for, that's going to bring meaning and purpose in my life. And on that note, unless anybody has anything else to say, I would say just check out the transit report that I put up. There's a lot more stuff going on this week that I think will add layers into this. And you guys have any closing thoughts you want to share?
I love what Lisa said. We walk into pain so that we can avoid suffering.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. All right, you guys. Peace out.
Bye.